So as you can see here in Visual Studio, it's saying packaging the deployment. It's packaging my application. It's deploying it. But deploying it where? It's not on Windows Azure. It's deploying it on my machine, on a local emulator. I will show you this in a moment also. And the deployment is running. Well, it's taking some time, and I think I can hear the CPU of my machine actually screaming. Okay. And as you can see here, it's waiting for role instance to start, because remember that I have specified that my web application will run on 2 instances, on 2 load balanced instances. So it was running these instances for me. And as I said, I was expecting actually an error, and this is the error, okay? Because I have instructed my code to read a configuration called data connection string, but I haven't yet defined this string. So what is this string? This is the place where I point my code to talk to the storage. And I have 2 options. And I can either talk to a local storage, the local storage simulation on my machine, or I can talk to the online storage. I will start with the local storage. So let me stop the application. Let me take this part here and go to my role, the online role. Go to properties, to settings, and I will add a setting called data connection string. It's of type connection string, and as you can see here, it's asking me how do I want to connect to the Windows Azure storage. I can either connect to the Windows Azure storage emulator, which is a simulation running on my machine. This is the tools that you get, or I can connect directly to the online account. Now I will start with the storage emulator, and I will say OK. And let me run the application again. Now again, I will go through the packaging the deployment, running the deployment, starting my instances. So yet again, my machine is actually screaming. But it will eventually work. And as you can see, this is my web application running. It's a standard ASP.NET application. Okay. Only it's not hosted on IIS. It's running on Windows Azure. Well, let me correct this. It's running on a simulation of Windows Azure on my machine. In order for you to see this simulation, you have this icon here. And as you can see, it says compute emulator is started. Again, compute emulator meaning the simulation required to run my application, my web application. And it says storage emulator started. Okay, so let me start here and say show compute emulator. And this will kick in the local simulation on my machine. So this is the Windows Azure Compute Emulator. And as you can see, this is my service. This is my online application, online web role. And as you can see, it has 2 instances. Remember that I changed the configuration. I will take you back to this one here. Sorry. And remember that I changed the configuration and I say instance count equal 2. So that's why I have 2 instances of my application running. So this is the beauty of for you as a developer. that you can start working on Windows Azure, you can start developing applications, you can start trying the APIs, start trying the full environment without having to go to the cloud. You only have to go to the cloud on the actual deployment. Okay, but you can try everything locally on your machine because you have this emulator, this storage emulator. This compute emulator. You also have a storage emulator running. So again, if I click on the show storage emulator now, you can see that I have a blob service, queue service, and table services running on my machine. Okay, so again, you have a full simulation environment for you to be able to try development and try your application on your local environment. Okay. So now let's start building the actual demo. Let's start building the actual application. First part I will do is that, again, I will go to this application and I will copy some, ASPX code, which is this grid view. Basically what I will do is that I will loop over any entries in my local table storage and I want to display them. In order to do that, I created a project here called data source project. And this data source project, I will use it to access my local, I will use it to access my storage information. So remember that I have a table, I have a queue, and I have a blob. So instead of writing the code inside my application, I created a central place called data store, a central project that I will reference in my application. And later, when I step into the code, I will set a breakpoint and I will take you on a journey through this code. You will understand what each line is doing here. For now, I will take the path of this project. Again, I will take you through this code. But what I will do now is I will just add this as an existing project. And I will add a reference for this project in my online web room. Great. So now, let's say I will start writing the code which actually I will use to bind the information on my grid. And I will say, I think it's called data source. It's called actually it's event data source. So I will start initializing my class here. And I will simply say my grid view dot data source equal data source dot event entries. So as you can see, I have a method here called event entries, which will get all the entries inside my table storage. And finally, do the standard binding stuff. So this is the first part, binding the data grid, the grid view, sorry. Then I will take the other part, which is the part that allows me to enter information, the part that allows me to actually create new events. Okay, so I will show you the design to get a sense of what's going on. So this is an application where I can submit online events. So I'm entering information about online events. I will supply an event name, date of the event, and a picture, and I will say submit. Once I do so, I will store the event name, the event date inside the table storage, and I will store the picture in the blob storage. What I will do later also is that I will store an entry inside the queue and read it in a worker role. But this I will do in a later step. So Let me go back to the source and go back to the button and open the on-click. Okay. Now for this event, I will take this code, paste it here. Okay, so what's happening now is that I will create a new event entry, fill it with the, like I said, with the name of the event and the date of the event. Then I will initialize my data source again, and I will say event source.add event entry. What this will do is that I will take this information and store it in my local table storage. So let's, like I promised you, I will step into the code to show you what's actually happening behind the scenes. Again, running the deployment, local deployment, it's taking some time. Actually, I think I did a mistake to initialize 2 instances of my application. This is why it's taking more time, because it's creating 2 instances. Okay. So this is my application running now, and let's go inside this library that I created to manage my everything related to my storage. So let's go inside. As you can see, I have created a method here which actually just loops over all my entries inside the table. So it's looping over all my whatever records I have inside the table. I have something here called partition key. Taking you back to this scenario here. Inside my table, I have a primary key called the row key. This one I'll be creating automatically, and I'm assigning it a GUID. I have something called partition key, which is used when I want to partition my data across many tables. And I have name, date, picture, and as a highlight. So this is the partition key that I'm using here, and I'm saying, okay, get me all the records that have the partition key equal to today. So get me all events created today. Okay. So I have no results till now, I think, unless I created something in the morning, and that data binding this to the grid. So I have no information yet. However, let's start with entering information, and I will call it online event and set the date of the event, like for example for Saturday, and let's upload a certain logo here for this event. So this is the event logo, and let's click submit. Now initializing the event entry, filling the information from the text box and from the selected data, and then going to the add event entry, and again step inside this code. And as you can see, this is the code, this is the API, add object, save exchange. This is the REST-based API to access my storage information. Okay, so in the previous session you were introduced to REST. Again, I'm using REST-based APIs defined in Microsoft.Windows-Azure.Storage client namespace. So these APIs allows me to go and save information, allows me to go and interact with my storage account. Okay, so I'm adding the object, save its changes, and return the row key. Now let me just refresh this page, bind the grid, and as you can see, I have the information here. Now I have no picture yet saved, because like as I told you, I'm not saving the picture inside the table. I want to save the picture inside a blob storage. So let me edit my application. Let me first go to the service configuration and put this back to 1 to make it faster. And let's go back to here. And for a lot of time, again, I have to copy the code, but I will explain it. So now I will add the picture. I'm taking it from the file upload control. And as I said, I will update my event entry with the URI of the picture. Again, remember the pattern here. The pattern is that I'm not storing the picture inside the table storage. I'm storing the picture in the blob storage. I will get the URI back,